Hey guys, how are you doing? Hope you're doing well. So, as I mentioned, I was going to jump on and start doing some readings from the discourse that I'm channeling. Um, so, I do have a little clip here that I'm going to share with you and do some explaining about it, so that way you can kind of clarify it because the wording is not always clear. However, I understand what it's being said. So, um, it's a book that you're going to have to contemplate with and sit and think about it and just kind of get with in order to start being able to understand it. So I think this is going to help, bring things to understanding when you are reading the book, if you're going to get it or what it's actually saying. So I'm going to break it down as I'm reading it, so it will help you, to understand it. So if you have any questions, just drop them down below. We can always set up sessions, for coaching, or, if you want to, um, talk more about it. I'm hoping that we're going to get some groups going here. If you're interested, they will be online to start with. I'm not going to do any public groups yet that I'm aware of, unless I'm guided to. But yep, this is the channeling of the discourse, and I do as I mentioned, going to be doing some clips. I did get a microphone, so I'm hoping that's going to help out here, with um, the noise in the background. Um, so we'll see how that goes, for this, because I said I would be making these clips while I'm in that space of writing, so I can help bring an understanding about it. So, alrighty. So this here, of course, there's more, and after what I'm reading, I'm just taking a clip out of it to just kind of go over. So it says, thereby the passing of genes, which is to that of source or that of you, which is who you are, which is of the two. So what that's saying is that the passing of the genes, which is that of source or that of you, who you are, which is of the two. You have two genes, one that's source, and then you have, of course, the human concept gene, right? So the form and then the source. So there's two genes within you, right? Thereby they only know of themselves to that which they come to, which is the knowing, right? So you're either, if you're in alignment, or as this discourse says, in him to, which is HYMN. If you're in line to source, then you have that knowing. If you are in the concept of human, you only know of that knowing, which is through their experience, right? So the experience is what you're experiencing, your human life or this source, right? Not that which they know, more than for you are of a new time and era unto itself in living. So with that, basically every new being, right, is a new form of source that's being. So what it's actually saying is, when parents come together to create a new form, they're actually creating a new consciousness, which is awareness and intelligence of that being. So every reproduction is a new time and era to itself, right? It's also a new time and era to itself in your being, right? So either you're in the human concept or you're in the source concept, right? That realm, that reality, that consciousness, that intelligence. And so from there, that's what you're living. All right. And so when two people come together to create a new a being, right? Just to try to keep this clean, I'm going to try to word it in a way that is okay to be seen and heard from all perspectives. So when two parents come together, as by nature, it doesn't matter if you're, male or female. It matters to the human concept if you're male or female, because you think it is that way, but it always isn't that way. And I'm going to give you an example. I had a session with somebody, and the angels came in and told us that even though the two people were female and the donor was male, the concept was that that donor was giving to the female who was with another female. Of course, they can't mate, right? So they can't create another being that way. So they donated for that person to have the baby. But it's by natural selection. It's not about human selection, right? Yes, you can, choose what you want, but we negate the ability for creation of a new um, form through the intelligence which it needs to be, right? So the human concept want to be like, oh, it's got to be male and female, which is not true. Uh, you can identify by male and female, but when it comes to natural selection through source concepts, that doesn't matter. Because what source is trying to do is create a new form for the new time and era, to create a new awareness and intelligence and expansion of its form, right? So when you're doing natural selection, you're allowing that to come in and happen. When you're trying to force it, you're creating something else than where or what it needs to be, right? You're creating a concept in time versus creating of an intelligence in the awareness of time. So it's two different things. Um, anyway, with the session, it was two females, then there was the donor, and that selective nature intelligence was suited for her, but because she was um, not generally attracted to the male gender, which we call by identity. She was with a female, so of course that couldn't happen. So with the donation, she was able to do it. But then at that point, she was with the other female because them two together would be able to bring up that child in the way that child need to be brought up, because that male donor would not be able to fill that space for that child. So there was a reason for that child being with those two people. We think other things than what's really going on behind the scenes, because we don't see it, we don't know it, we don't understand it through the human concept. So it's just ignorance, right? Basically, to think, everything has to be the way that we want it to be, or think it is, or how it should be, right? Because when you're going against the grain of consciousness, which is source, because we believe something, we're going against the grain and we're creating something that shouldn't be, right? And a lot of times, we think of our creation when we're doing, wanting to have or create kids, that there's something wrong with us, and a lot of times it's just basically that it's not the right time, it's not the right setting, it's not the right person, right? Even in my own experience, I had like 10 years between my kids, right? And basically, that's what was happening. Like I wasn't, it was such a huge span. I just wasn't ready for the other one to be done. And it's because where I was in my own consciousness, right? And so when source is working through us and we allow that, everything is in divine timing and order. So it doesn't matter who you are as the physical form, the concept, or wherever it is, it's at the right time, right place, right person, right conditions. And that's the way that it is. It's the way it should be. But we get in the way of everything happening and evolving because we think it needs to be this way. And that's because of our belief systems, right? So we negate ourselves in the creation of new generations. And so that's a lot of failure that's been going on in the past. So because we have these concepts and these realities and beliefs that, it has to be a certain way, but it doesn't. But anyway, I had that huge gap, but then finally, I ended up being, when I was ready, to that right space to be able to create something else from a different consciousness, right? And so these things come together. It's almost like our genes know that who it is and when it is and when it's supposed to be, right? But a lot of times we do force it. We get into medications and make us pregnant, and we stress and we get all worried, and then it ruins our relationships instead of just being and just allowing. Is this the right person I'm supposed to have it with? Am I, is it the right time for me? And from there, that's the creation of it, right? um, Nothing's going to happen that's not supposed to happen, that shouldn't happen, unless we're forcing it, and then of course we're going against nature. So we evolve in a different way on that perspective, but everything, happens for a reason at the right time. It's divine timing. um, but there's definitely these intelligence that come together to create a new space and time and era. And so when you have that, you're actually, when that child comes in, they're in a new space, a new time, a new era. They have a new intelligence. So like, for instance, when you have, kids coming out of the womb and they're already on a computer or something like that, that is divine knowledge through them. That's their intelligence, right? They're of a new being. But a lot of times when we do have kids, we want to impose on them our belief systems, our ignorance from where we were, our experience, our suffering. Oh, you can't like this person, you can't do this, and you can't do that, and you gotta do this, right? Instead of allowing them to be their new intelligence that they are, right, when they come in. So just some things on that. It says, yeah, thereby they know, they only know of themselves to which they come to know, right? Through their experience, not that which they know more than you, for you are of a new time and era. So a person cannot be more than what they think they are, right? And so when you talk about the passing of the genes, you're passing down either your intelligence or your ignorance of your experience, and that's from source perspective or the human concept. um, and there's only two genes, right? Like I said, there's source and then you, um, which is the human concept. Now, you're a new time and era unto itself in living. So you live what you believe. You live who you are from what you're seeing through your alignment. Are you living from perspective of source? Or are you living perspective from the human concept? And so, meaning nothing stays the same unto itself that lives unto itself in him too, that which is its nature. So, being in our own nature, what nature are we being in? The source or our human concepts, right? You can't be anything other than itself. So the book talks about, you know, part in here about being a rock versus human, the concept. We can only be more than what we are, doesn't make us better than, right? So we're not better than a rock, we're not better than a tree, we're not better than a grass. And so the concept of what we've been taught, that we're more than and better than, and we're the ones taking care of the earth, and that's just nonsense. um, we should just pick up after ourselves. We should be more conscious of ourselves. We're not in charge of anything. Sources, right? We put ourselves in charge of everything, that we're the keepers of everything. But no, we're the keeper of ourselves. We should be mindful about not littering. We should be mindful about what we do. We should be mindful about our actions. We should be mindful about, who we are, right? We're not in charge of anything or anybody but ourselves, right? So that's a miscommunication and misconcept of false beliefs and teachings. Um, that we are, better than or more than something else that's been created through consciousness, because where you are is where you have been. Because if you have that consciousness and awareness of whether um, it's a stone or a rock or a creek or water, or whether it's good or bad, uh, if you have that awareness, you've been there, you've done it. It's your awareness. If you don't have awareness of it, it's because you haven't been there yet. You don't know about it, right? Until it becomes known, right? And then it's through your experience that you become known. Um, and it says, meaning nothing stay the same unto itself that lives unto itself in him too, that which is its nature. So you cannot be any more than what you are. Your parents can't be no more than what they are. A rock cannot be any more than what it is. A plant can't be any more than what it is until it expands, right? Which is the reproduction of itself into something else. When you bring two people together, you're creating something new, which is a different intelligence in itself. So it can be something else. So we don't want to make it something that we are, that we've been, right? We want them to have a new experience, a new life, something new to them, and allow them to be who they are for why they were created, because we're not all the same. meaning that which is source, not that which is separate, right? So you're either with source or you're separate from it. When you're separate, you're the form, which is either the human, the rock, the tree, the grass, the animal, or your source. And everything has source within it, which is the intelligence. All right. Thereby, that which they are is of the parents, is the being of itself. So you have the parents, which are your parents. They can't be any more than what they are, but they are themselves source. They have it within them too, but a lot of times we don't see it because we see them as parents. We don't see them as source because we don't see ourselves, because we're not seeing ourselves as source. If we were to see ourselves as source, we'd be able to see them as source and we would know differently. But in the human concept, they can't be any more than they are, and we can't be any more than we are, right? Now we have our own parenting. So our own parenting is awareness of who we are in our place, our present moment. So um, when we're in our human concept, right, we should be aware that who we are, where we are, what we're doing, what we're saying, what we're speaking, that's our own parenting, not our parenting from our parents. There's two different types of parenting. From what I'm understanding in this book, there's two of everything, right? Two of everything. You're either parenting yourself or you're getting parenting from them, right? The being of source, you're not really getting parenting from source, but you're the being of source. So you have the awareness, right? So any parenting that comes from us is our choosing. So we're either choosing to be of source, reality, awareness, and conscious and intelligence, or being of the consciousness of the person. So in that parenting, it's our awareness, right? So being aware of what we're doing, what we're saying, how we're acting, things like that is our own parenting, right? Because even though we have parents, we have our own duty to parent ourselves, right? And to be conscious and to awaken. So there's parenting. Um, and that which they are is the parents, is the being of itself, not who you are, meaning they are of themselves source. So they are of themselves source. Relation. So there be to be laid by, which is the foundation. So what is your foundation? And laid is not by two people coming together, but what is laid before you? What is your foundation? What is your path? Um, are you being taught, or are you teaching to be an awareness, or are you teaching to be of the human concept? What is your foundation? Because from the foundation is where you're going to be. That's if you're in the human concept, that's your foundation for what you create in life. If you're in the awareness of source, then you're creating from that foundation for your life, because everything starts from a plateau and a foundation of all things is that which you come from, which is source, not the parents. So your main foundation is source. Even though we are brought together and created of the parents, our foundation is source, because source is the originator. The first, is the originator. The parents comes after source. So although we call them our parents, they are not our parents. Our originator is source, right? We just come from the two parents coming together, or however that is being created, whether it's being a donation or two people coming together to create, which is by divine source timing, right? So there's a reason that two people are brought together and we think it's us that's doing that. Like, oh, I'm liking this person, so we're going to come together and we get married and we have kids. There's divine intervention in that. There's a reason you have that connection, right? And it's so you guys can come together to create a new version of yourself, which is a new intelligence in that time and space, right? But we think it's us, it's me, because we have the human form, so we're seeing from the human form of what we're creating and we're attracted to, right? But everything that is within us is attracted to what's outside of us. So we're creating, I'm attracted to that, so I'm creating from within to bring that to me, to create of a new creation, which is source, right? So it's the passing down of source into a new version of source in itself. That's being, which is the relation, not the related. The related is what we're related to, is our connection outside of us. Relation, that's the related. The relation is what's within us, because relation is source. Related is outside of us, to our parents, our friends, our family, the nature, grass, trees, whatever it is, what we see within us. And then that's our foundation, which is source. So from which is source, not the parents, which is where it all started from. It started from source. It didn't start from your parents, right? Because your parents are a source as well, right? So they're the creation of it, which is form. It came to form, to being, to create and recreate itself in many ways, which is the form being its true self. In nature, by its way of being, which is its concept or its reality or its intelligence. And then from there is what you're seeing, right? And that's what you're creating. So it's like a cycle, like continuous cycle of creating. It wants to create through you, wants to be through you, wants to see through you, wants to experience and live life, and just create expansion awareness, because that's what source is. It's not like lack or anything like that. It's an intelligent expansion of awareness, and through form. Thereby are the result of parents, not unto itself. Thereby means you are source unto itself and being that which you are, that is made of its genes, not its genes. And it's funny that the book says in its genes, which is GENES, not JEANS. So the two genes, the genes that you wear that you're trying to fit in into as your form, is the concept, or the genes from passed down from source, because you have that. So you are source. The only time you're not is when you're not allowing it to be, and you're being in the genes that you're trying to fit into as the concept, right? Your identity, your awareness, whatever, from the form that you're being. Thereby you are it unto itself in heaven already, because you are it, which means you have everything that you need, but you think you need more, because you are seeing yourself as less than when that which is, meaning you have been convinced in being that which isn't, meaning you talked yourself out of being source when you really are source, because you're in your human concept for too long, and it's been passed down that you're separate from source, you're not true source. But because we're in the human form, if we are source, we can't have the experiences that we have, right? Which is a different topic, but we come to experience. So if we are aware of source and who we are, then a lot of times we don't have the experiences that we need to have in order to have the awareness, to gain the clarity and to see what it is that we're doing, we're creating, and the experience and having, so we can expand, right? Which goes back to, we have to, when we're creating, what they're saying is, if we're say you're like 20 and you want to have kids, and you're not having kids, you're trying, you're just not in that space to have that creation of a new being, because your genes are not where they need to be in order to be in alignment with that, in order to create a new version of yourself, right? So whenever we have, the situation where we're trying to create a new form, try not to think of it of yourself, your issue. It's something wrong with you, and then creating distance between you and your partner, and then the relationships break down. Just allow, right? Allow an acceptance that when you're ready, and if it's not the right person, it's not the right person. Just be in acceptance of that, and just don't let that negate you from trying to move forward, and don't try to force yourself, taking medications, because you're putting things into your body that's not good, and you're just it's just all downhill from there. But anyway, it's like a mutation. I'm getting like it's a genetic mutation at that point, trying to give yourself medications to have kids when you're not ready. Maybe not, you're not ready at 20. Maybe your intelligence within yourself and sources, like, you're just not ready, because you don't have, not that you're not all that you can be or all that you need to be, but it's your intelligence system within has to be a certain way for it to fit with the other one that's coming in for you to have that child that you need to have, right? Because everything is like meant to be the way it's meant to be, right? But if we're forcing it, we're not allowing. So it interrupts the flow of creation, sort of say, is what I'm getting. Um, so yeah, and it may just be like you're not ready at 20, but as you've gone through your experiences, in your concepts, and you don't have the awareness yet, and maybe it's not just that, the genes need to be ready where you are physically in the body, but maybe your concept of awareness in your thought perception to have kids. Maybe you're not ready to do that. You may think you are, but you're not, may always be ready, right? So maybe, or maybe the father isn't ready at that point to be there, being present, have that awareness in order to give to the child after it's born, right? Because you have the awareness within the body that's creating it, which is source, creating this new intelligence to bring to you, but then you have the parenting that you have to do, right? And so if you're not ready mentally, emotionally, physically to do that, then it's going to have a whole different result on the child that you're creating, because every evolution is a new evolution, intelligence and awareness opening up and becoming more and expanding, not the regression or going back to or what is in its present moment. So we don't want to supersede that and you know teach what we have been through, our experience, our suffering. We want to be able to be in a space where we're able to give to that new um, intelligence that's coming through us, which is source, to have that space for it to evolve and grow in its own way, not what we want to bring to it, from our perspective. So I don't know if that helps anybody out there about, bringing life to, other beings, that we're creating. But there is a right time, right place for everything, and that is part of it. Our creation of another being, and so we do want to make sure that we're ready mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, on all levels, and be able to not only just be in that space on the intelligence, but source level, on all levels, our consciousness, awareness, our emotions, right, in order to help creation. Um, and then thereby you are it unto itself in heaven, which means that you have everything that you need, but you think you need more because you are seeing yourself as less than that which is, meaning you have been convinced in being that which isn't. So we talked ourselves into being human, not source, right? So we are then seeing from the human concept, not source concept. Thereby, to the understanding of yourself, you will begin to see that which you are in the way that you are, which is to be of both. For you are made unto him, which is source, right? So it depends on where we are, is where we're seeing from, and then we're creating from there, and that's our understanding. Thereby live in that which it is being, not that which it isn't, which is that which I am seeing, meaning that which appears before me, for I am of it, to that which is of me, only difference is in appearance. So it's like projection of what I'm seeing within me, outside of me, on others, right? Because a person can be the most loving person outside of us. But what we're seeing is the reflection of myself on them, which I project in them, and I bring that out in them. So instead of bringing out the good in them, I bring out the not so good in them, so I can see it from my perspective, because sometimes we can't see it from where we are. So that is kind of what it's saying, which is just by appearance. I could be sitting here talking to one person about another person. They have a total different, appearance or opinion of that person than I do, right? But it's just our experience, because they are from in a different space than I am. And so that is just a difference in appearance. But then we turn it into judgment, and we think it's them outside of us, but it's really where we are. We're either from the space of the human concept, where we are from our past, our experience, our knowledge, our awareness, or we're in the space of source looking at them, which brings out the source in them, right? So we are creating every moment that we are existing, right? And we're creating that in them, right? So we want to be careful what we're projecting and what we're seeing, experiencing, acting, responding to, which is a difference in appearance, which was made for me to see by not to be by, right? So to see but not to be, right? There's two different things. And what am I seeing? What am I being, right? Am I being true to myself? Am I being in the human concept, my experience, my reality? And so what I am being is what I'm seeing, but which is the yellow brick road. So whichever direction you are, whether you're seeing by source, or you're seeing by your human concept, which is your experience, everything that you've gathered to this point in this moment, this time frame, is our path. And there's nothing wrong with either path. The yellow brick road is the same, regardless if you're in the human concept or you're in the source concept. The path is the same. It's not the same path, but there's no difference in it. There's no judgment. There's no judgment of which path you choose, because it's the choosing. You get free will, you get choice, right? And so there's no judgment or difference in the path you get to choose. It's just the path that you're choosing, right? You could either take the quick way, which is to be in alignment with source, or you can take the long path and have all the experiences, which is the human concept, right? And taking up, and that's in the discourse too, about the taking of, which is taking up and the putting down. So you're either taking up one or you're putting down the other. If you're choosing source, you're putting down human concept. If you're taking up the human concept, you're putting source down, which is not maybe putting source down in a negative way, but you're allowing yourself to be in the human concept, and so you're not in alignment with seeing by source. You're in seeing by your human concept, is where you are from your experience, your past, your wounds, your suffering, or even the good times, because even in the human concept you have good times. So that's the yellow brick road. And so there's no judgment or difference between them. It's just the path that you're taking to it. So either way, it's a yellow brick road, right? And it's just going to lead you to the same place. It's just a different way of going about it. Thereby am that which I be, to that I am being, that you are not, isn't. It is that which it is that I am being, that I am, which is confusing. But thereby I am that which it is that I am present, not that which it is that I am, which is I am as in source, because it's hyphenated, not which is the being of it unto itself, which is the greatest thing in of itself being, meaning that which I am present and is present within itself, which you are, not outside of you. For you are of it, meaning you have nowhere else to go but in. So it's just saying basically that you have source, you have the human condition, the beliefs, blah, blah, blah. It's just being whatever is present, which is either your projection outside of you, and then you have whatever's projection outside of you, what you're seeing, what you're experiencing, because a tree is just a tree unless you see or say something about it, something different. A person is just a person, and it's what you're seeing about them. The grass is just the grass, and it's just what you're seeing about it. The flower is a flower, it's what you're seeing about it. So it's a projection from inside outside. Either it's taught to you, it's passed down, or you're picking up on what has been the past from your experience. Because if it's in your experience, then you've been there. So there should be no judgment of where a person is from where you are. We're not better than them. They're not better than us. It's just our being of where we are. And if it's in your awareness, your perception, you're either have that still going on within you, which is a reflection of itself projected on them, or it's something of your past that you've had past experience, because for you to be where you are now, you had to have been there before. There is no being unless you've been it, if that makes sense. So you were there at some point, so there should be no judgments, against others. But a lot of times we forget, because we come into life after life after life, and we forget what we've been to where we are now. So in order for you to be where you are, you had to have gone through it. Otherwise, you can't be where you are now. If that makes sense. So there's nowhere else to go but in order to see what we're being at the present moment, is we want to take our projection and reflection off of others unto our own selves, and see that within ourselves, right? So we want to turn in, not project, and just see them as they are. which is their true self, which is source. So basically, kind of that's just what that's saying. There's a lot more to it, but you know, I'm not going to go into all that. But it keeps going on down. It says, "Thereby you are it, not that which has been passed down, for that which has been passed down isn't, it was." It's existing before, right? So it goes into more, and that's just a little clip out of it. It explains more in detail, you know, as you're going on. And as I mentioned, I'm going to try and do a little bit more of these, and then maybe get some groups going, and then kind of go from there with this. But if you have any questions, drop it down. If it makes sense to you, if not, if you want some clarity on it, let me know, and then I can always do another video and clear up anything that maybe I've talked about to help you understand it a little bit more. But yeah, that's the clip for today. And again, if you want to have any sessions or want to join in any talks, I think I'm going to start doing talks online. And so I guess what I'll do is do some readings, and then we can have some talks on it, you know, and do that. And so that way there's a communication going with that. But yeah, it's really interesting because, like, I don't know when this book is going to be done. The discourse, as I said, as I'm writing, I write, and then more clarity comes in to write more about it, or to go more in depth with it. So it seems like a never-ending writing process for this discourse. So I don't know how long it's going to be or when it's fully going to be ready. I might have to do multiple books. It looks like so, but yeah. All right, that's the clip for today. Again, if you have any questions or want to reach out to me, let me know. Put it in the in the comments below, and we'll see you at the next clip. Happy journeys.